Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for a workshop on value proposition and designing a solution your customer wants. So we're excited to have you join us. My name is Cameron Law, and I serve as the Executive Director here at the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm joined by one of our entrepreneurs in residence, Brian Gladden. For those of you that aren't familiar yet with the Carlson Center, we serve as a regional hub and platform for providing approachable and accessible entrepreneurial education community and support to enable startup founders of all backgrounds to start and ultimately scale their ventures. We are on this mission to make innovation and entrepreneurship pervasive throughout the greater Sacramento region, and really trying to work towards this vision of the greater Sacramento region being a premier hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. And how we've gone about operationalizing that is working across three core areas of programming, which we call Discover, Build, and Launch. And today's workshop is part of our Discover set of programs where we provide you as entrepreneurs with tools, mindsets, and frameworks to ultimately take that idea or your business venture and have those tools to take you to scale. And so we're really excited to offer this workshop as part of our summer startup series. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Brian. We are going to be using the chat feature to bring in questions. You also can use that raise hand feature if you feel comfortable doing that. But we will pause periodically throughout the session today to answer any questions that you might have. So if you want to get familiar with that chat feature, we'd love for you to introduce yourself and share where you're joining us from. So without further ado, I'll stop my share and take us off, Brian.
Cool. Thanks, Cameron. Welcome, everybody. Good to see some familiar faces from last week and some other series. So hope you enjoyed last week's Blue Ocean for those of you who came back. Today, as Cameron said, we're going to talk about Value Prop Canvas, a great tool, and a couple other concepts as well. I'm going to start to share my screen. Give me just a second. Okay, everybody's seeing it okay?
You got it.
All right. So besides the Value Prop Canvas, we're also going to talk about another concept called jobs to be done, which we'll get into pretty deep. The agenda for today is to talk about what is this thing called the Value Prop Canvas, this idea of jobs to be done. We're going to look at designing your value proposition canvas, some examples of some real world ones, and then a value proposition pitch. So taking that information and using it into a very succinct elevator pitch. So what is the value proposition canvas, or VPC for short? To answer that question, we first need to look at the business model canvas. I'm curious how many of you are familiar with business model canvas. Give me an emoji or thumbs up, and put your video on, say yes. All right, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's good. So some of you guys are familiar with it. That's great. This would be another workshop, but the business model canvas is one of the leading tools that help us document our business model. The lean canvas is another one we use, which is just an adaptation of this one. This is really the original canvas that helps us determine how we create, deliver, and capture value. That's your business model. And we can say all that on one page. Nobody creates business plans anymore, except internally. When we talk about investors and stakeholders, we're looking at business models with maybe a 15, 12 slide deck. And the business model canvas here is really the foundation for that. Talks about what we sell, who we sell it to, channels, our revenues, our partners, our activities. And think of it as your executive summary of your business plan and business model. Well, there's a layer underneath of that we need to talk about, which is where all this detailed about what are my customers' needs and problems. That is called the value proposition canvas. It really is that detail around who are my customers and what are their jobs to get done, which we'll talk about. Think of that as problems and pains and needs and wants. What are the gains they hope to have happen, and some pains we'll talk about in deeper in just a second. And then on the other side, we call this really the value map. What is our solutions? How do we deliver value to the customer and their profile? A little deeper description of each of these elements. Think of this value prop as that layer underneath, where really the middle bucket, if you remember, was the value proposition, which is really the offering, your high-level solution, product, service you're bringing to market. And then the customer segment, which is this other gray area. If we zoom into each of these two boxes, those get populated on our business model canvas from the work we do on the value prop canvas. So when we think about that, we think, first of all, on the customer profile. So what is this? And this is where we start on our journey of understanding our customer. The very first thing is the customer jobs, and we're going to do a whole section on this in just a second, a little deeper. But it really describes what customers are trying to get done. That could be a problem, a need, a want. And we list those high-level jobs here. And then if that job got done, what gain does somebody expect to have happen from getting that thing done, right? That job. What pains are they worried about, or bad outcomes or risks are they worried about if the job doesn't get done satisfactorily? And then on this side over here, we call this the value map. The customer profiles over here. Here's what the customer wants and needs. And on this side, this is you, the entrepreneur, the vendor. What are the products and services that you sell? And then what are the features of those products and services that create value, create gain for your customers? On the flip side, what are the features of your products and services that relieve pain for your customers? And as we get into this, you'll see sometimes this is art. You say, oh, well, this could be a gain or it could be a pain reliever. Absolutely. There's not a right or wrong answer. Sometimes it's a little bit of science, a little bit of art. At the end of the day, if our features and services map to our customers' gains and pains, the jobs they want to get done, we call that problem solution fit. If we have a bunch of problems over here that customers want to get done or are worried about getting done that don't align with our features and services, then we don't have a good alignment. We're not really mapping to our customers' needs. Therefore, you're probably not going to have very good traction or success in launching your product or service. So it's a great visualization tool. I think it's one of the most important 3 tools that any business can use, corporate or startup, to understand and visually map their customers' needs and problems. Because it gets everybody on the same page, exactly how are we solving those problems versus a Word doc or an Excel sheet. As I mentioned, once we have a mapping and an alignment of not all, but the most important gain creators and pain relievers from our solution to the customer's pains and gains, we have problem solution fit. That's the first stage that entrepreneurs, as well as entrepreneurs and companies, corporate innovators, need to have happen, right? We have this idea that I think I have a solution to solve a problem. We need to go out and actually validate that anyone cares about your idea and has that problem. That first step is customer, after we figure out that the customer actually has the problem, that's called customer problem fit. The big step then is, does our solution meet those problems? That's problem solution fit, way before we go launch to market. So the value prop canvas, in a nutshell, is a really powerful visualization tool to help you map and prioritize your customers' jobs and pains and gains to get done, and how your problem solves that, or how your solution solves those problems. I talked about this idea of jobs to be done. So we need to spend a little more time understanding what is this concept, how does it work, so that we really understand over here in the very first section of the customer profile, what goes here? What goes in this jobs to be done, little piece of the pie? Jobs to be done is a concept that really helps us look at determining customer problems in a better way. So if I said that, Cameron has a problem, or I think he has a problem, well, I might talk to him and he might say, oh, no, I don't have any problems. Everything's great. Here's how I use this existing solution. So sometimes we love the term problems, and we always talk about loving the problem, not the solution, because it's kind of a cool catchword. But really, at the end of the day, needs, wants, pains, gains, problems, they can all be simplified into a common concept called jobs to be done. What job is the person trying to get done by using that product or service? And your superpower as an entrepreneur or entrepreneur is to understand your customers' problems better than they do. Customers don't know sometimes what exactly they need, right? They don't know what the solution is. They just know they have a problem they're trying to solve. No one went to Steve Jobs and says, I need you to create the iPhone. They just knew that they have a desktop computer and they have a mobile phone, and I can't do all the things I want to do when I'm mobile on my phone that I can do on my desktop. Why can't I do both? Hence, solving those problems. Some of the key people who have really pioneered this idea of jobs to be done, one was Clayton Christensen, former Harvard business professor, very famous on disruptive innovation, talking about jobs to be done offers a clear way to innovate. So when we know the customer's jobs to get done, we can innovate from the existing alternatives in the market. We can create something better and new, right? Because now we have a foundation. Tony Olwick is the founder of Strategyzer. They're the current kind of leaders in this space on consulting, coaching. They do a lot of training on jobs to be done concept. And he talks about the focus should be on what jobs customers are trying to get done, not on your solution, not on a specific problem, but at a higher level. Think of it this way. We actually hire products and services to get jobs done, right? So everything that you go and buy, go to the grocery store and buy food to get a job done, right? Because you're hungry. I buy a mouse, here to get a job done, right? What's the job to get done? Well, it's to help me more efficiently, navigate my computer screen and do things faster, right? So there's certain things that we hire products to get done. What is the definition of a job to get done? Think of it this way: the instantiation of an unmet need or want in response to a trigger. And this idea of a trigger is pretty important. Many of you maybe have started businesses or you're looking to start one. One of the things that we talk about and teach in other modules is understanding that customer journey, right? Where customer bought a product or a service, it didn't work, they're looking for something better, you think you have that solution of what something is that's better. What we need to understand, and many times, is what was the trigger that caused the customer to look for something better, saying, oh, this isn't good enough. It didn't meet my needs. It didn't, I had an unmet or bad experience, or I'm not satisfied with the outcome. I'm aware of something better, or had a change in my circumstance. So that customer journey, a trigger, is really important. Many times we can visualize this customer journey and just talk about this in context of jobs to get done. So in this kind of made up visual scenario here, the customer is here and they've had some triggering event. And maybe they used a product and it just didn't work very well, had a bad experience. So now they're searching for a new product or service, something better, right? They're motivated for a better outcome. And you have this, the gift up here, the new solution, you're pulling them towards the offer. In both cases, the customer is looking for a new, desired, better outcome. They want to get the job done in a better way, right? This new way. But many times we have resistance, inertia, friction, set in our ways, don't want to change, too difficult. But at the end of the day, that job to get done if we can show the customer a much better way to do it and prove our solution is not just slightly, but substantially giving them a leap in value in the way the job gets done, then we have potential great product on our hands. The key, though, with jobs to get done is understanding the human, really, psyche. We don't just get functional jobs done. There's really three of them. There's emotional, social, and functional jobs. So when you're thinking about, as an entrepreneur, I got this great idea. Here are my customer segments. Here's the things they want to get done, the problems. Most of the time, we think in terms of functional, right? My mouse literally just moves my cursor on the screen faster than I can do it with my little finger, and I can scroll in and out. I can click left and right. Those are the functional things. But what about the emotional jobs and the social jobs I want to get done by buying a specific thing? Well, why did I buy Logitech versus some other brand? Well, emotionally, I've had a good experience with Logitech in the past. Maybe it's a monitor or a keyboard or another wireless, mouse or adapter. So I've had good experience. I feel good. I feel that I'm going to have a good experience. It's going to last a long time. So emotionally, I feel comfortable. Socially, maybe Logitech is doing something that, I like. Maybe they're eco-friendly. In this case, the social job is not that important. It's really the emotional job and functional job. Well, we're going to actually go through a couple other examples of jobs here, functional, emotional, and social. But just wanted to stop there and see, does that resonate? Does the concept of jobs to be done, is it clear and understandable?
I got a little hung up on the word instantiation on the last slide. That was probably the only thing that was a little unclear to me.
Okay. Yeah, so just in layman's terms, just think of this: jobs to be done. Is you have an unmet need. What is that need? What job are you trying to get done, right? Now it's functional, emotional, social. And that unmet need has popped up some way because you had an experience. Something triggered you. You used a product and it sucked. You went to a restaurant and the food was terrible. You're looking for a better place. You bought a car and it was a lemon, right? What triggered you to say, this isn't good enough? I need better.
Thank you.
Got it. Good question. So let's look at some examples, and feel free to throw questions in the chat. This is a pretty famous one in this realm, this context of jobs to be done, because it was a real example that Clayton Christensen, that we mentioned before, worked with McDonald's on. And it's pretty interesting. So they basically came to him and said, we need some help with some research. We have this data and we don't know what to do with it or what it means. And what they saw was that half the milkshakes that they sell on a daily basis were sold before 8 o'clock in the morning. People were always alone when they bought the milkshakes. It was the only thing they bought, and they bought it in the drive-through, or they drove off right away. They didn't sit there in the restaurant, McDonald's, and drink it. Really unusual, right? When I think of buying a milkshake, I don't think about it at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? You think of lunch or dinner and just a treat. So they said, why are half our milkshakes being sold in the morning? So they hired Clayton and his firm to go out and take a look. Well, the initial thought was, we're going to look at why people buy a milkshake. What job are people getting done by buying a milkshake in the morning? And the conventional perspective was just because it tastes good. People like milkshakes, right? So Daniel likes a milkshake. He just can't wait to get one first thing in the morning. That's not the reality. And usually when you create your business model, your business plan, you have built-in assumptions that you think the customer's problem is this X, Y, or Z. That's fine, a starting point, but it's an assumption in your opinion that we need to validate, or else you're going to have a really high risk, right? We need to lower our risk. So they said, let's go talk to these people that are showing up at 7 o'clock in the morning and buying a milkshake and driving away. Why are they buying it versus just assuming is because it tastes good? What they found is that they buy this milkshake because it keeps them full on their commute to work until noon, or they can get a place where they can actually get a real meal. When they talk to people, it says, well, I can drink a milkshake in one hand while I'm driving. I'm not worried about spilling hot coffee on me, right, and getting in a wreck. I don't have to use a fork and eat food, which is obviously dangerous while you're driving. Just basic liquids, a Coke or a Monster drink, or even just regular milk is not as thick, so it doesn't fill you up as much. So the job to get done by these people was to fill up their stomach, but have it easy to drink while you're on your commute to work. That's why 50% of people buy milkshakes at McDonald's, which is not something that any of us probably would have imagined. So understanding the customer's needs is really important to understand. Then how do you continue to evolve and innovate that product or service? How do you position it? What's the messaging of why people should even come there, right? So you would be completely off track if you just said, oh, because it tastes good, let's have 10 different flavors. Well, that wouldn't have really helped, because that's not why people are buying it. Let's look at another job to get done. So what's the job of listening to music here? And this is a good one. So I'm assuming some of you are old enough like me to remember the cassette tapes and the mixtape that you used to make and put all your favorite songs on. Well, the job of that was to let us listen to music on the go, right? We didn't have to have our LP and our turntable. Great. Did a good job. Well, then technology evolves and we have the CD. Yes, the CD sound quality is better, but another major job the CD got done better than a mixtape was letting you go right to the song you want to play, right? You go skip right to track 12. Well, on a mixtape, you have to hit rewind. You got to let it keep spooling. You have to flip it over, right? Get right to the place you want to go to. So functionally, it didn't get the job done well enough. The CD got the job done much more efficiently, right? Much better. But that wasn't good enough. So now we want to listen to music. We don't want to be able to get to one song and have to take a Walkman CD player with us. We want an iPod that has 10,000 songs and get to any of those right away. Well, that was good until it wasn't good enough. And there's a better way, which is Spotify and Pandora. And now I have 1 million songs without having to have a Walkman with me. I can play on my phone. And then you obviously have the devices that come with that, right? Now you just ask Alexa to play a song and it's connected. So the job of listening to music didn't change, but it got better. Functionally, these things provided a leap in value for the customers. What's my job? I want it to be mobile. I want to get to the song right away. I want it to be in the cloud. I don't want to have a device. So we need to understand those jobs around it emotionally, socially, functionally. Maybe you're an Apple fan, right? And you're like, oh, okay, this is awesome versus a Walkman. And I'm a Pandora versus Spotify person, right? Emotional, social. But at the end of the day, the functional job was around the mobility and the ease of use. Here's another fun example. I don't know how many of you are homeowners. You can put a thumbs up in the chat or in your screen there. But think about new homeowners that are, decorating their house, and you're looking to hang some paintings and pictures on the walls, right? So the job you want to get done is to hang a picture. So you go out to Home Depot or Lowe's and you buy a drill and a drill bit, right? So is your job to get done really drilling a hole in your wall? I would say no, that's not your job, right? So when you go into Lowe's and you tell the guy, hey, I need a drill and a drill bit, what kind of drill bit do you recommend? How big? What's it made of? Craftsman, Ryobi, blah, 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 DeWalt. And because you think you have to buy a drill and a drill bit because you want to get this other job done. Well, all they hear is, oh, you need to buy a drill and a drill bit. Maybe the drill bit manufacturer is thinking, oh, well, I'm going to, make this in titanium or a diamond head drill bit, and it's going to last 5 years. Well, you, the customer, could care less about all that. That's not your goal to buy a drill bit that lasts 10 years. All your goal, your job to get done is to hang a painting. So you don't want to mess, you don't want a hole in the wall, right? But you have to buy a drill bit to drill a hole. Why? Because you want to secure a hook to the wall, right? And the only way you know how to do that is to buy a drill bit, drill a hole. And because you want to hang a painting. But if we get to the root cause, these whys, right? Kind of like the 5 whys analysis, well, why are you drilling a hole? Why are you securing a hook? Well, why are you hanging a painting? We then get to the real job. The job Brian wants to do is to hang a pretty picture or my family portrait on the wall, right? I don't really care about putting a hole in my wall. So if I know that's my job to get done, I can look at better ways to get the job done. So when you go into Home Depot and Lowe's, how many people see this right next to the power tools and the drill bits? If you go into Home Depot and Lowe's, you will see this and Velcro right next to power tools and drill bits and saws and table saws, because it is the same functional job getting done. You are securing something, you are fastening something, you're putting something here on the wall versus putting a hole in the wall. So it's getting the same job done, just in a different way. So then you could look at adjacent markets, substitute markets. How could I expand my customer segments, my product lines, by understanding the job to get done? Then you look, oh, do we have those core capabilities? Yeah, hey, we make tape. Let's just make it stronger. And now we have a whole new customer segment versus, your regular transparent Scotch tape, that the kids are using for, school projects. So this is the idea around jobs to get done. What I want you guys to do now is to tell me, kind of open it up, unmute yourself. We'd love to see some faces too if you put your camera on. And let's talk about what jobs do business travelers need to get done. So if you were going to create the customer profile, and we'll just talk through them and shout them out, and then I'll uncover kind of the right-hand side, just what some possible answers could be. What are some jobs that business travelers need to get done? Don't be shy.
They need to get to the client location at the appropriate time, so they can, set up, prepare, ideally, hopefully the day before at least, unless they're a vacation working traveler, then they get there for days before to enjoy themselves. But if that's not who they are, then they get there, the appropriate time to meet the rest of the team or to be prepared.
Yep, get somewhere on time, right? Good one. What other things do business travelers want to get done?
There's something about efficiency, cost effective and time effective.
Okay, get there cost effectively. Yep, and on time. What other jobs do you, when you travel, when you pack a suitcase, you're like, okay, what are the things I got to get done, on this business trip, or want to have done? Think about, we just talked about functional, emotional, and social. So when you have a plane trip, what are things you think about?
Food.
I want to eat. Okay, good.
As low as stress as possible, so when I get there, I can function at my highest level.
There you go. Good. Yeah, you want low stress and relax. Okay. How about anything about fear and risk?
Maybe like locks on your briefcase or suitcase, if you've got confidential information that you're traveling with.
Okay, you want your baggage secure. Okay. When you travel for business, is it all about business? Do you think about other things when you're traveling, if you're gone for a week?
I think about the logistics. How am I going to get there? I think a gain could be, if I am traveling on businesses, are the reward points I can receive?
That's a great gain. Absolutely. Thank you, Charles. Yeah.
I think a pain could just be traveling itself, having to be away from your family and getting to the airport, getting your luggage, that can be a hassle.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm concerned about what the weather is where I'm going.
There you go. That's a good one. Perfect. Yeah. Am I going to get delayed, or do I have the right clothes, or is it going to cause issues with my my working? Yep, good ones. Here, I'm going to open this up. I only did the job to be done piece of pie. I didn't do the pains and gains, but and again, there's not a all right or wrong answer, but it gives us some ideas. So someone said eat, right? Get rest, sleep, right? You also need to reserve your accommodations, right? You got your business to attend to. I want to be able to stay somewhere. But how about these things that no one mentioned? Emotional and social. You want to feel safe when you're, say, whether traveling by plane or in another city. You want to feel connected to home. How many of you take pictures of your kids or family or spouse with you? Right? Something connected to home. And then you want to make sure you kind of get there and you're able to, maybe you're doing an overnighter or a red eye, right? You don't want to be completely disheveled and, no rest, and just a nightmare travel. So these are the kind of maybe some high level jobs. And to Charles' point, then you'd have lots of gains and pains, right, associated with it. Well, if I stay somewhere overnight, do I get rewards points? Is it a really nice hotel? If I feel connected to with home, maybe I get to, I've got free Wi-Fi or FaceTime, all these different things. So maybe I get some coupons for free meals, or don't want to have eat fast food. Maybe that's one of my pains, right? I'm worried about eating airport food. I'm on a diet. So when we think about the traveler, think about those three areas, right? Functional, social, and emotional, because we all have these humans. We're the functional is easy, but what are those other jobs that may be hidden sometimes? The emotional and social job that push you towards one product or service, the other, because you resonate with it. Maybe it's going to help you feel safe. You feel better about buying that for whatever reason, right? All right. Any other comments there? So now we've kind of looked at what is the value prop canvas, how can we use it, and this idea of jobs to get done from functional, emotional, social. So how do we start to design this value prop canvas? When we think about the canvas, I mentioned this before, it's that layer underneath of the business model canvas, or the lean canvas it could be. And you think about it, this is the executive summary of all of our stuff. You might have, again, dozens of documents besides your business model canvas. If we pull out the customer segments, right, and to really understand their pains and problems, that's our customer profile. The value prop is the service that we're offering, right, product or service. We pull that out and we really understand our features and what we're selling. That's that layer underneath of it. So for an example here, Hilti Power Tools, here's their tools. Here's some of their gain creators and pain relievers, less maintenance, longer life. Again, is ergonomic in the hand, safety triggers, and that maps over here to, the main job, get construction done, right? And I'm sure there's many more. We're being simplistic, but from that, I'd love to have safe employees and an enjoyable work environment. Well, if I have safety trigger, great, that helps keep my employees safe. Work is better when your hands, aren't hurting. You're using tools that actually work well. Time lost because things are having to get fixed and maintained. So now you can see how they map together. What we want to make sure we do when you're creating your value prop canvas is focus on one value proposition at a time. Some of you might have multi-sided business models, marketplaces, right? Think of Facebook or Uber and Lyft, right? You have multi-sided customers and vendors, and you're in the middle bringing them together, or Amazon as a marketplace. Just focus on one thing. Maybe it's the product, maybe it's the service, and then do another one for another very discrete service you're offering or product. Focus on the emotional, social, and functional jobs, all three as you build this out. Think about those customer segments. Maybe you have 2 or 3 customer segments. That's fine. They might have different emotional and social jobs, right? Maybe you're going after, a B2B enterprise versus a B2C, small business or an individual person, right? Different jobs. We want to focus on the most important high value jobs. So let's say we have 10 jobs we've identified between functional, emotional, and social. Not all those 10 jobs are equal. So if we all ranked those jobs, just like we did with the whole business traveling, we might say get there on time is number 1, and then, maybe it's feel safe then 2, or feel relaxed, whatever it might be, right? So yeah, there's a whole list of them, but if our product or service or offering is only meeting the needs of those bottom 5, you don't have a really strong offering, do you? We want to focus on the top 5 because that's what somebody's biggest problems are that they'll pay the most money for. So what we have to do is go out and validate, right, in the market. So we never stop testing and learning and talking to the customers, prospects about their needs and their jobs and prioritizing those. And then we want to focus on the highest value ones, especially for your MVP. And you don't have to boil the ocean. You don't have to focus on every single gain creator and pain reliever feature of your offering. Just focus on a limited number of those that are going to produce the highest value, right? That map to the most important jobs to get done. And that really is where your MVP comes from. Most important jobs, most important features of your offerings. The other stuff you can add on later on, right? You don't have to have every feature when you first launch.
Brian, you got a raised hand real quick.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Hey, here's my question. When we were doing the business traveler model, I said showing up relaxed, and on your thing, it says feeling safe. For me, feeling safe is part of feeling relaxed. And so that's just an example of kind of this very fine-tuned thing. But when I start looking at this, how do you know whether to focus on feeling safe versus feeling relaxed, if that makes sense?
Yeah, great question, Leslie. I would say those are 2 different things, right? I would list them separately as our assumption, right? That, okay, safe could be, am I flying an airline that has a good safety record, right? That I'm feeling that they're doing a good job checking people coming in the airport too, right? I feel literally physically safe. Versus feeling relaxed. Am I in business class? Am I in first class? Versus, maybe Southwest, you don't feel as relaxed because you don't have that assigned seat, right? Or I'm not getting the meal, or there's not the warm washcloth, right? And all those things, or I have to go through 2 hops, right? So I feel less relaxed. I'd separate them. But again, at the end of the day, it's still your and my opinion. The only way to know is we have to go talk to prospects and customers and ask them, not about what they will do, but about what they've done, what's been important to them. Why did you select this airline versus this one? Why did you select this travel time or this car enterprise versus this one? Why did you select this hotel? And we'll get to see real behaviors. And this is an important thing, is past behavior is the only true evidence of what people will do. What they say they will do is not real evidence. It's very light evidence, right? Oh yeah, I'd buy that for $10. And then once you build it for $10, yeah, no, it doesn't really meet my needs, right? That's just, it's very limited. What they've done is real hard evidence. And it's not just, you could get, reports and things, but those are usually very old. It's very static information. We want to get deep into our customers' jobs to get done, right? And you can't get those from reports. You need to talk to them. Well, what was your triggering thing of why you switched from being in America Rewards, elite status to United? Well, I had a bad experience and they were awful to me and blah, blah, blah. So I switched and now I'm over here at this, I took everything through United, whatever example. What were those jobs to get done and what was a priority for those people? And if we get enough data points, 10, 20, 50 people, we can start to see themes and then rate them. What did people say were their top 5 most important things, right? Now we have real data of why they use Southwest. Well, a cheap airline ticket was actually number one over feeling safe or being efficient, right? You're like, okay, that was real behavior. So great question. Does that help answer it?
For sure. Thank you.
Good stuff. More questions, the better. Rather have you guys ask me than me just talk at you. Okay. So a way for us to, as I go back up one here, I talked about this identifying high value jobs. We're like, well, how do we do that? Really what I was just talking to Leslie about, we have to get out of the building. Steve Blank, famous from Stanford, lean startup, kind of started that movement. And one of his famous sayings is, there's no answers in the building. So get the hell out of the building and go talk to customers. So your opinions don't mean very much. So once we put those on paper, we need to get out of the building and go really spend a day in the life of the customer to understand their jobs and problems. And actually not just talk to them, which is the most important, but also observe them. People do things differently than they tell you they will do something, right? So I asked Daniel, hey, how do you use this device? And he'll just tell me, oh, I do this, this, and this. But then when I observe Daniel using the device, he might do different things that he doesn't tell me, that maybe are just second nature to him. Oh, well, I have to do that because of this, this, and this, right? That he just takes for granted, doesn't tell me. But those might be nuances that you're like, you know what? I have a better way of doing that. You don't need to do X, Y, and Z first, right? So by observing him, I'm understanding his job better, his experience better. And then what you can see is, okay, what you observed, the notes, maybe what you talked to them about. And it's just a way to understand and get validation and get more insights into customers' jobs and problems. At the end of the day, to Leslie's question a minute ago, we actually have to talk to customers and to be able to rank them, right? Whether it's a card sorting exercise or you tell me of these 10, which is, 1 to 10, most important, how much would you spend, right? There's a lot of different kind of experiments, but we just need to get real feedback. This is another way for us to rank them. So after we've observed them and talked to them, we can list all these jobs, and you could do this on a Word document, right? This is just a summary sheet here, and kind of rank them from low to high. So I saw this job, whatever that job is. How important do I rank it? Well, does failing the job lead to extreme pains? If I say yes, okay, sounds important. Does failing the job lead to missing out on essential gains, right? So maybe you rank it from a 1 to a 5 or something. Tangible. Can you feel the pain? Can you see the gain? These are just ways for you to help yourself prioritize if you don't have a chance to talk to customers. And are there unrealized or unresolved pains and gains? And then money-wise, are there many people with this job pain or gain? If there's not, maybe it's not worth us actually creating a solution, right? Our market's not big enough. And then are they willing to pay a lot? And you can get that from past experience. Well, how much did you pay for that product or service? How much did you spend on yourself doing a DIY, right? Maybe you're trying to build it yourself. So there's always a cost. And then we can kind of rank those, right? Maybe you score them 1 to 5 and you're like, yeah, these are all great, but that one's a 10 and that's a 9, that's an 8. So I'm going to focus on these over here. And that's just a gut back of the napkin way for you to help starting to prioritize.
Brian, there was a question in the chat. Stephen, do you want to bring your question in?
Hey, sure. Hey, Cameron.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing all right. Yeah, so Brian, good hearing from you again. And maybe to help phrase my question, coming back to the day in the life, I'm thinking that it's probably likely easier to get into a day in the life observation mode, more for those B2B type of offering settings. But if we're engaging like a B2C, with consumers, their private lives, how they're making purchasing decisions, how do you get into the day in the life, that engagement without literally being in their home, at night as they're sleeping,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a good question. I actually have a completely opposite opinion of you, which is right interesting. And I think B2B is much harder than B2C. And working with companies, the time it takes to get into a company, to actually see them and schedule appointments, and the amount, right? The breadth of, what's the whole market. Maybe there's only, 100 customers that you can actually even potentially get to. To me, that's much harder. I've seen much easier to get to a B2C. And you can think about it right in a continuum of, like you talked about, spending the night in someone's home and watching what they do is pretty immersed. It could just be you stand outside Walmart and you ask them, oh, I see you bought this type of milk versus this, what was your, thought process, and whatever those questions are, right? So you get that. You can also do a little bit more in depth, like focus group. Now you get 5 people in a room, talk about things. To your point, you could literally say, okay, I know these 100 customers or prospects that have maybe through Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is, Instagram, said, yeah, I'm interested in this product, or I have this problem. I'll be in your initial, kind of cohort of experimentation. And maybe they then allow you to come into, their home at lunch, and okay, how do you use this new, kitchen appliance or whatever the problem is, and you just observe them. So actually, there's many case studies where people, Strategyzer actually talks about one in Europe, tea kettles, and actually watching somebody pour and Blue Ocean Strategy does too, a tea kettle. There's so many tea kettles, and they said, well, let's go actually watch people make tea in their homes. So they literally went into people's homes, and to your point, whether it's 50 of them or 100 of them, might take you, a couple of months to do that. But they said, well, there's a million tea kettles out there. What's different about ours? So people say, oh yeah, I just put it on boil, and then I put the tea in the cup and I pour it. Well, that's not what they observed. What they observed was they actually had to take off a little filter on the top of the spout, wash it out because of all the minerals, kind of calcium and buildup, because the water was so hard where they were. They had lots of this kind of lime and mineral buildup. So they had to wash out the filter, put it back in, right, kind of like the just you do on a faucet, and then pour the tea. And they said, well, why do you do that? Oh, well, because our water is hard, this and that. And they had to observe that. So they literally then made a built-in one of those things that wasn't built into other tea kettles, and that became one of the leaders in the market. So those are real examples. And to your point, it's not easy. This is the hard work of actually getting in front of somebody. And you talked about getting the home. So think of it as a continuum, getting in front of somebody versus getting fully immersed in their world. Whatever data you can get is better than no data.
Cool. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, Brent. Lalita. So I have one more point to discuss.
Lalitha, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just have a point. I just need your validation. So when we are discussing about the day in the life of a customer, so we need to understand the pain points of the customer as well, right? Say if they're doing some process, that is not getting them the right output, or if they're doing some things in a monotonous way, or doing the same repetitive jobs. So any scope for automation or something like that can also be identified, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And one of the things you'll hear us talk about in other sessions is early adopters. And then the normal question that I would have if I'm you then was, how do we find these people with these problems, right? Not everybody has the same problem. And these are the early adopters. And whether it's a business or it's a consumer, these are the people that are stating, outwardly, maybe it's again on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, like, this product's terrible and I'm looking for a better solution. Does anybody have a better way of doing this? Those are people that have recognized that their current way is not good enough, right? They're looking for a better solution, and they usually have money because the pain is real. And so those are the people we have to get to first to prove that, one, the problem exists, there's enough people, and two, that our solution solves their problem. So we have to find those early adopters. Great questions. All right. You guys are going to do this in just a little while, actually make your own value prop canvas. So one of the things we can think about from the customer profile, you might be a company already in existence, right? Not an entrepreneur, you're doing well, but you're looking to innovate. How do we augment our product line or just extend it and find new segments? So how can we use the value prop canvas, the customer profile piece of it, to innovate? Well, think about what you currently do, and you could list, here's our product or service, and here is the jobs that people get done with our product right now. How can we do more jobs, right, to help customers get more jobs done? How can we help them switch to a more important job? Maybe your thing you sell right now does X. Well, maybe Y is a more important job. How do we change our solution to do a more important job? How do we go beyond functional jobs? Maybe you haven't even thought about emotional and social jobs. How do we incorporate those to sell more, get new customers? How do we help a lot more customers get a job done? Maybe you have a niche segment right now, right? Your product or service just is a very focused, small niche. How do we broaden that to get, whether it's in our market or adjacent markets or substitute markets, help more people get that job done? Or get a job done incrementally better. Right now, it does it and it does it okay, but how do we really create a leap in value? Whatever that thing is that you do is significantly better. Maybe it's time savings, return on your investment, speed, whatever it is. And very similar, getting a job done radically better. So think about Uber and taxis, right? Stuff like that. Radically better, significantly, incrementally, a leap in value. Any questions as we're going to move on to some examples, which I think will really help get some light bulbs going off. And then we'll have you guys actually do an example. So this is a fun one because we all know Tesla. So we're going to pretend, and this is a Strategyzer's view. People created the value prop business model canvas view of when Tesla first came out, what their value prop canvas could look like. So when we think about Tesla, when we do a value prop canvas, we think back to we want to look at one value prop at a time. We also need to understand who the customer segment is we're looking at. And you might be in a social impact, social entrepreneur thing, that you're doing well. You might have many beneficiaries. We want to pick like one key beneficiary, one key customer group. In this case, they're looking for, people buying their original, sports cars. The normal segment that they're going after was upper middle class white males with 100,000 income or more. That's who they were trying to go after. So when we think about that, what were the jobs that these people want to get done? And I've left that open for us to see. In general, they want to be different from others. That's more emotional, right? Social, functional, occasional long distance trip. They actually want to be able to go long distances. Functional, they want to be able to commute to work. Again, functional, personal mobility, but now more emotional and social. They want to convey an image of success. And buying a Tesla, these are the jobs that they want to get done. Those are the type of people they're looking to get these things done. If we look at the gains that this person, potential customer, wants to get done from buying a Tesla or a car like that, they'd love to have seating up to 7 people. They'd love to see high safety ratings, a high-end battery, long range so battery doesn't die, compliments from friends. They want a cool design. They want it to perform like a sports car, and they want brand recognition, right? Because they want to be thought of as cool. These are all the gains that Tesla prospect customer wants to have happen if the job gets done right. What are some pains that you think they're worried about? Well, They're worried that there's going to be accident and harm because electric vehicles aren't, really well tested, that they're going to have to stop and charge a battery frequently, and that it's going to go dead, and there's a lack of charging stations. And they're also worried because it's brand new that once things get going and they sell more, that the price is going to go down. They're going to be the ones who are buying it at the high price. So when Tesla looks at this, they want to create gain creators and pain relievers. They're going to relieve these pains and meet these gains, right? So their first models, the X and the S, were targeted at this customer group. So these are the literal products that they had, as well as you could buy options, right? Maybe a sports mode or extra technology package. So real things you're paying money for, as well as an extended warranty. So when you're putting your products and services over here, we're not listing all of our features. We're literally just listing those things you're selling, your products or services. Up here and down here are where the features go. So what were some gain creators they made? Well, 17-inch touchscreen, right? Make you feel, cool, and design, complements autonomous car driving. So you're hoping, again, it's going to be very cool. Hopefully that higher safety ratings, focus on style and design, and you can go from 0 to 100 kilometers in under 6 seconds. So it's going to perform like a sports car. What are the other features that are really pain relievers? Well, you have a whole network of charging stations. You can actually go up to 7 seats, and it will charge very fast. So these are the things that were more of pain relievers when they talk about batteries and stations down here. So that's the art piece. Like, okay, well, maybe that's a gain. Well, it fits better as a pain reliever because this maps to all those fears that people have down here, right? This was more about design and being cool, and this is more about fear of dead batteries and charging stations. If those things map, we have fit, and obviously they do because they've been doing very well. Does that resonate? Does that make sense?
Brian, I noticed there's nothing on there about the environment and the new technology being part of the solution, the things that I would think would be more motivational. This is fascinating.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I was writing this, I would have added probably a piece of being eco-friendly, and electronic. But we have to remember, this was the initial group of target customers that they were targeting for these sports cars, not the general public right now. The mass majority is probably buying one of the reasons to be eco-friendly, but these people were buying it more for design, being cool, having the new technology, not so much about being eco-friendly.
Yeah,
which
because that
is
was
just
like 10 years
fascinating.
ago too, right? I'm sorry.
It's just fascinating to me because my assumption would be with an electric car that the number one initial reason would be about being eco-friendly. So it's fascinating about checking out our assumptions, because clearly that assumption was wrong, at least for their initial customer profile.
Yeah, absolutely. They were not about being eco-friendly. I don't have the slide here. It's a quick story is, even before this car, the original car, I can't remember the Roadster. Yeah, the Roadster. I think that was the original one. That was even more exclusive people they were looking at. And that basically was, hey, will you give us, $5,000 to be on our waiting list? And we have don't even have a working vehicle, but it was a Lotus Esprit. They took out the parts and put in the batteries and put stickers of Tesla on it. And they said, we're going to build a sports car like this. You want it, give us $5,000 and we'll put you on a waiting list, and we're going to build it in like a year. And hundreds of people, thousands of people did that. And that's a great example of an MVP, right? Testing the market for pricing, because these people were affluent enough, they didn't care about just putting $5,000 away for a sports car. And it wasn't about being eco-friendly because obviously the first batteries, weren't that great. There's not enough charging stations. It was all about being the new cool kid on the block, being perceived as eco-friendly, being perceived as having the new technology, but not so much about really being eco-friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's really a great example.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Aaron. Go
no,
ahead.
no, that's fine. And I think an important distinction is a decade. Obviously, a lot's changed in a decade, or nearly a decade. And if we're going to be objective, this is probably a canvas very similar to what a luxury watch would have. And so I always felt this back then, that Tesla was basically looking for the luxury watch suckers to finance their R&D with a very high margin product, so that they could construct the R&D ecosystem they needed, because the capex of those first few $1 billion, the let's say the lift weight of that was, infinity at that point, right? Nobody wanted to write that check to them.
That's right.
And so they needed to find sort of that, let's call it short-term sucker, and they obviously did, that'd be willing to finance that first wave and a half of, let's say the first 2 cycles of vehicles of their kind of early mass market vehicles, or not quite mass market, but you know what I mean? Like the way a luxury watch will have a release of, 10,000, 5,000, 20,000 or whatever. Because if you're honest, if you did this again, it's a completely different pivot.
That's correct.
Than this.
Absolutely.
Like you would replace the picture, you'd replace the age, you'd replace all kinds of stuff there.
Absolutely.
Maybe the income, though, the income would stay. So I think the difference is the income, this would shift to family, but and the income level would be the same.
Yeah.
So it would be it'd be more family, but with income at that same level.
Yeah,
so,
you're right on a lot of these things, and got other slides I could show on this, but that was their go-to-market, which we called a mafia offers. Like, you create this offer, you didn't have to build a plant, a manufacturing plant. They didn't build a car plant to start with. They just used a Lotus Esprit shell, got people as an experiment to say, okay, would you give us money for this? Here's what it's going to look like. And they started that way on purpose, because they knew they couldn't build, 100,000 cars out of the gate. They were only going to build, a couple hundred or a couple thousand at most, test those, make sure their batteries worked. It wasn't about the high-end sports car. It was about the battery. And these people could afford to wait or put it in the shop because it wasn't their primary mode of transportation, right? So they're the guinea pigs. And then once the battery technology got there, then we went to the other mass market vehicles, lower price, that we all, see people driving. Great examples, good questions, comments.
We had one additional question. I think, Charles, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, Brian, to get to the fit, the job to be done, Tesla or their consultants did a day in the life to get the job done, right? That's not something that just popped up in Tesla.
Yep.
They had to go ahead and do observation and a survey or a day in the life worksheet, correct?
Yeah, talk to hundreds of potential prospects. Could be sports car owners already. Yeah, you got a Porsche, you got a Lamborghini. Are you interested in an electric version of that? Okay, great. Sign up here, email. Oh, by the way, we're having a showroom with one. Come see us and give us $5,000. Put your name on the list. So they literally did those interviews, did those tests with real potential early adopters, right? And you had to figure out, what's the early adopter look like? Someone who has a Rolex, someone who has a Lamborghini, right? All these things, right, that have disposable high income that could be looking for this.
And Tesla or any other company, they could be in production already, but being able to pivot based on the survey, the observation, is this not a static kind of thing to come up with their gain creators and their pain relievers? They have to be willing to change based on what they find out to find that alignment, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you're Ford right now, right? You've been, doing things for 100 years. Great. So you want to pivot to electric vehicle. There are new trucks coming out. So you need to get real data. You need to go talk to potential prospects. Are you just starting with the mass market because now Tesla and others have proven the market, or are you just looking at trucks? Where is it you're targeting? And great, maybe if it's just trucks, you're going to go talk to Chevy owners and Ford F-150 owners and say, hey, you're a truck owner, do you want an electric truck? And here's what it does. Well, hauling capacity or tow load, right? These things that you wouldn't think about in a sports car. Great, now maybe we have to, can we do that? We have to pivot, like I said, your manufacturing line. So before the old way was let's build it and then let's go out and sell it and see if it works and then fix it. That's too costly because then you got to retrofit all your machines. The cheap way, within just a few months, you can go talk to people, find out the real problems, then go back and create the solution just to meet that problem. It's way easier.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Good question. I'm actually spending more time on here than giving you guys a chance to do this, but I think these are good examples. So we'll continue on. So I created this value prop canvas for some of you who might be in the social impact world, right? Not everybody's out to make the next Tesla. So let's think about Shelter Box. If you've heard of them, they're a philanthropy group, and they provide literally a box, like a home in a box for displaced and disaster victims. And so here, our segment is families who are displaced from a disaster. So what were the jobs that this family wants to get done? Well, they want to have shelter, want to have access to food, want blankets for clothing, you want clean water. So from those basic jobs, you hope that when you have access to food, maybe you have the ability to cook, right? That's a gain you want. Maybe you want warmth for family members. You want to be free from insects. You want waterproof shelter, right? Not just shelter. What are some pains? Well, you don't have any money to pay for goods because your entire, home and town is in ruins. You have no way to transport the goods if somebody brings you something. There's a lack of safety at night. Maybe you're in one of these camps and you're worried about your kids because now there's 100,000 people in a camp. You have lack of tools. So if someone gives you a tent or other stuff, you don't have any tools to build stuff, and so you're unable to set up a tent. So what they said is, great, here's what we build. We build a box, and that's our thing that we sell, or people donate, and we then provide that. What are the things in there? Well, we have a tent, we have blankets, and we have pots and pans. And so those things that you see map over here, right? Cooking, warmth, shelter. We also have solar lights at night, providing safety. We have all these tools in there. Now you can build things. And we have partners that provide logistics and bring the goods to you. So now you're really saying, yeah, this social impact venture is providing a really good fit to the needs and jobs to get done for these displaced families. When you're doing a social impact venture like this, you're going to have many beneficiaries. You want to do a value prop canvas for each of your different major beneficiaries or stakeholders. It could be, the second one could be your NGOs and partners. Next one could be, like the government entities or your donors. Very similar when we look at a multi-sided platform. Think about, again, Uber or Facebook, where you've got users and advertisers, customers and vendors. You're bringing them together. It's important to do a value prop for each segment because they're going to have different jobs to get done and different pains and gains. So here's an example of Airbnb. So we all know that there's two sides, right? You have the hosts and you have travelers. And Airbnb is neither, right? They're just the platform brings them together and takes a piece of the action. So if they were going to look at this, you do a value prop canvas for your travelers and you do a value prop canvas for your hosts, right? They're going to have different needs. So if we look at one for hosts, it could look like this. I want to welcome visitors. I want my house clean. I want someone to manage the bookings. And I want to publish and announce that I have space for rent. I hope it's profitable. I want to be visible worldwide. I want to keep in touch with visitors for repeat, and luxury visible to travelers. So I want to be high end. I'm worried that it's going to be difficult to get paid. I'm worried about legal protection. Not sure I trust the people renting my place, and I'm worried about them damaging my place. So there are services, right? Online booking, matchmaking, calendar for the visits. And what are the features here? Providing extra revenue, a worldwide reach, reviews and stars so they can see if it's a really nice place, a community of people to stay in touch. You have a damage insurance waivers, verified ID and secure payment. So Airbnb is meeting the needs and jobs to get done of the hosts. So now we really need to look at, well, what are the needs of the travelers? We actually have 10 minutes for you guys to do this. So we're going to throw you into some Google Docs, break you into teams so that you can pretend you are Airbnb and you're creating your customer profile for your travelers. So Cameron, I'm going to throw it to you to tell us what to do.
Do you want to answer a quick question before we go in there, or do you want that after? Stephen, it looks like you have a question.
Oh, yeah. The quick question is what I just put into chat regarding shelter box. Yeah, so just briefly to recap in the chat, it seems like the canvas, value prop canvas, speaks to the end users, the families, versus whoever the clients that are going to be able to fund or support the goods going to the families. Is that a fair observation?
Are you talking about the shelter box example?
Yeah, shelter box, exactly.
Yeah, you might have missed me or didn't hear when I was saying, you want to do a value prop canvas for all of your beneficiaries. So when you do your business model canvas or lean canvas, in your customer segments, you're going to have, the actual end user, right? Displaced families here. You're going to have your NGO partners. You're going to have your donors and sponsors, right? So you're going to have all of these different beneficiary stakeholder groups. They're going to have, to your point, different jobs and pains and needs, gains. You need to do another one for your NGO partners and your donors and figure out what's important to them.
Cool. Thanks for clarifying, confirming. And it's similar to what you're doing right now with the Airbnb example, kind of that line of thought. Cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks.
All righty. So June, we'll tackle that question as our first one when you all come back. And then in terms of the breakout sessions, I threw a link into the chat room. And if you're able to hop in there, that will be where you can all engage in the brainstorming for the value prop canvas. So I'm going to open you into 3 breakout rooms right now, and we'll get started, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. So
folks, what you're going to do is just take the stickies or your verbiage and do your jobs first, what you think, and then your gains and your pains, and just think functional, emotional, social.
All righty, open rooms.
I'd love for you guys to unmute real quick and just anybody wants to comment on how the exercise went to help, any insights you came up with.
Let's see. Jobs. I forget what we had for jobs.
That's okay. I mean, we don't.
You have to ask my room buddy Priyanka.
Yeah. Well, just due to time, instead of going through all the jobs, pains, and gains, which we don't have time for, what I'd love is just a comment or two on the process, your mindsets, and the methodology, and what insights you kind of garnered from doing the exercise. Any comments, anyone?
I think our experience was more like our point of view was more from the point of view of the customer. Uh, uh, like how it has been difficult for how people have transitioned from hotel rooms to to Airbnbs, that transition, the pain points from unavailability, location, and uh, uh, I mean, that's where we sort of started, and so we were looking at it from that point of view. Hmm.
Right. That's the job. That's the idea is you, whatever your segment is, your customer, whoever they are, travelers, hosts, whoever the person is, you want to be empathetic, right? The goal is to put ourselves in their shoes, look through their eyes to figure out, what we think the biggest jobs and pains and gains are. So anyone else had any insights or, thoughts on the exercise?
It was definitely an exercise. You had to think about why people stay in Airbnbs, and so it was like a gymnastics exercise. You had to, it made you think.
Good.
Actually, I had a question. I mean, I wonder how Airbnb will be perceived after the pandemic. Like, I don't know, like the cleanliness aspect of it or the COVID aspect of it. I wonder
Sure.
if that's going to change their, like, if they're going to do something about it. I mean, I'm sure they're going to do something about it, but I just don't know what, like, I'm wondering what changes they would bring after COVID. Uh, I mean, the business model is still very good. The need is still there. The pain is still there. But COVID has sort of, added another level of like safety. Like people want to feel safer and they want the space to be cleaner. And, there will be some
Yeah,
more needs from people after
that's right.
COVID.
That's
So I
right.
wonder, I wonder they'll do some kind of survey to get those newer needs after the pandemic and take care of that.
Yeah, so I'll comment on that, then Steve, you guys hand it. So this process should never end. We talk about continuous innovation. So wherever you are in your company or startup, the understanding of the customer's needs and jobs to get done should never stop. It's a continuous cycle, just like cybersecurity or Lean Six Sigma or onboarding an employee. It's processes that you have to embed in your organization and never stop, ever. So COVID is a perfect example. Great, COVID has now changed the user, their needs. How are you changing your offering to meet these needs, right? Are you having a cleaning service go in every day? Are you having hand sanitizer on the kitchen table? Are you having wipes as part of it? They're free, right? So never changing. So there's always something happening in the environment, the macro level world that's affecting our business model. We have to be aware of those and continually, scan for these things so that we can innovate. So great comment. Steve, I'm going to call on you.
Sure, thanks. And coming back to the process question, there was something in the experience with Charles that I thought was pretty interesting, because we were responding to a point about safety. Now, safety where we had it, and everybody, where we had it as a pain, but in our just general open conversation, we created a little sticky note in the gains area, and then we kind of paused and said, well, actually, how we had it is we had safety under pains, so quote unquote, maybe we should move it from a gain creator to a pain reliever. And that was very specific. But then I'm kind of sitting back or stepping back a little bit. It's almost a matter of perception if, for example, security or responding to security is considered to be a gain creator or a pain reliever to a certain extent, depending upon what the travelers are determining. Is that also fair to say? I would love to hear more.
Brian, you're muted.
Yes, muting helps. So great comments, and absolutely your answer is yes. Think of it as it's an art, not just a science. So you can move the sticky from a gain to a pain or pain to a gain, depending on the feedback and insight that we get from the customers. What are they saying? Is it, oh, I'd love to have this as a gain? Okay, then that's the gain. Versus think about it from fear. The pain is fear, risk, anxiety. Is that when they're talking about safety? Oh, I'm fearful. I'm worried about this. Well, then it's probably a pain versus, oh, that would be awesome to be clean. Well, that sounds like a gain, right? Versus, usually when you think about things that are negative, it's a pain. It's not clean enough, disease, safety, all those things. So great point.
Cool, thanks.
And it's your assumption, right? We put these things on our paper. Now we have to go out and validate them, try and reduce our risk as much as we can by talking to the customers. So I'm going to move on just because we're out of time. And this, we didn't have time to cover in depth, but honestly, it's pretty simple. What this is a quick template, and it's really your value prop template. There's a lot of other things out there in the market that are similar, but when we talk about what is it that we do, how does it solve the problem for the customer and their job to get done, this is a simple way after you've done your value prop canvas to verbalize it. Our blank product and service helps customer X who wants to get this functional job done by doing this, reducing, cleaning the room and, booking, quicker, unlike, Marriott hotels or something. So that is a way for you to understand the value and the quick elevator pitch of what it is you're doing at a high level, right? And you want to obviously focus on your most important jobs and features. I'm just going to leave that there for you guys. You can look at as later. That's kind of an outcome later on. But in summary, due to time, what did we do today? We reviewed the value prop canvas. We discussed problem solution fit. We defined jobs to be done. We looked at how to design your canvas. We gave examples of the canvas, and then you we talked about creating elevator pitch, and you actually did some exercises on the canvas. My insights for you, I hope you take away, that focus on the customer's jobs to be done, focus on one value prop at a time per canvas, emotional, social, and functional jobs, identify the highest value jobs, the prioritized ones, and focus on your most significant pain relievers and gain creators, evaluate the fit between intended value and expectations, talk to your customers, and go observe them using the product and service, and then create your pitch. We're going to stop there and ask for any more last second questions or comments.
Could I ask, I put it down there, what is the social part again of emotional, functional, and social? I don't have anything under there.
So we'll go back to the Tesla example. So functional is to get from point A to point B, right? Transportation. Mm-hmm. Emotional could be that I am really actually feeling connected to the design, that I'm getting comments from my friends. That's also a little bit more about social, but social could be the eco-friendly. I'm being perceived as eco-friendly, right? Which is a social thing. Think about going golfing, right? You don't belong to a country club because it's functional. You belong to a country club and go golfing because you want to have emotional and social jobs to get done. Socially, I want to hang out with my friends. I want to spend the day, relaxing. Emotionally, I feel like I'm, getting to know my friends better, right? So those are emotional and social jobs, things like that, right? So everything we do might have a component, it might not. Some might have more functional components, some might have a more emotional component.
So would social be how the customer is perceived by other people?
Yes, usually yes.
Okay.
And that could be, big easy things, gun control, religion, eco-friendly, seen as, got the coolest, latest technology. Socially, he's like the cutting edge guy, right? The tech guru.
Healthy, health would
Sure,
be,
healthy's a big one.
okay.
One.
All right,
Yeah.
Cameron, I'm going to throw it to you due to time and
Yep.
to wrap us up.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian, for leading another great session. To wrap up, just a reminder, we will be sharing the recording of this session as well as the slides. So if you need to go back and check out some of that content, it'll be coming your way. I threw some links in the chat for some upcoming events as well as programs. So we've extended the fourth wave application deadline to this Friday. So if you're a female founder in the tech space and want to apply, we'd love to have you do so. And then a couple upcoming workshops and events. We next week we'll be running the corporate innovation. So Brian will be leading the charge there. And then later in July, we'll be doing a workshop with Josh Levine on building company culture, which will be another great session. And then we also have Startup Happy Hour, which will be virtual coming up, and we'll be featuring the winners of the King's Capitalize and the City of Elk Grove pitch competitions, which are iRate and EV Life. So we'd love to see you at those sessions. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have additional questions, but we appreciate you being here and hope to see you for our next sessions. So without further ado, thank you all. And thank you again, Brian.
Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Hi, Charles. Finally saw your face.